Elizabeth stood in front of everyone and laughed as she tossed the ring into the hotel fountain. "You're too sentimental, Paul. A ring doesn't mean commitment. Grow up." The splash echoed louder in my head than it did in the water. Guests turned away awkwardly. Her friends giggled like it was a prank. My fingers, still curled from where I had held the ring box, didn't unclench. That was supposed to be the moment we announced our engagement. Instead, she turned it into a performance. She always had a flair for attention, even if it meant humiliation for me. I stayed quiet. I always did. That's what Elizabeth loved most about me, that I never raised my voice, that I made things easy to forget, that I knew how to look away. But the ring? I couldn't forget that, not because it was expensive, because it was mine. I bought it after 3 years of skipping every single trip, party, and purchase I wanted. She said she didn't like flashy rings, said love wasn't about gold or diamonds. But the moment I handed it to her, she scoffed like it was a joke. I didn't walk out that night. I still drove her home, still opened the car door, still smiled, like everything was fine. The next morning, she acted like it never happened. 2 months later, I heard her talking in the kitchen, laughing again. This time, not to me. I stood in the hallway and listened. "Julio, don't be ridiculous. Of course he won't mind. He's harmless." I didn't confront her. I went to work, like always. I answered emails, took calls, pretended things were stable. Then one day a friend forwarded me a photo. It was a post from Julio's account, a picture of him wearing a ring. My ring. The caption? "With you, always. Take care of me." And Elizabeth had liked the post. That was the moment. I stopped being harmless. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I didn't call her. I didn't even reply to the friend who sent me the post. Instead, I picked up my phone and texted Trina. "Are you free for dinner tonight?" I used to think patience was a strength. That silence was how a man held his dignity. I told myself, love was proven not by shouting louder, but by staying when the other person pushed you away. Elizabeth gave me every opportunity to walk out, and yet I stayed. We met in college. I was majoring in architecture. She was in marketing. She was loud, wild, confident, the kind of person who lit up the entire cafeteria when she laughed. And I was quiet, observant, careful with my words, and even more careful with my time. But somehow, she chose me. She used to say I calmed her down, that I was the only one who made her feel safe. When we started dating, Elizabeth liked to pull me into her storms. She'd pick fights with waiters, scream at professors, hang up on friends, and then curl up beside me and say, "You're my peace, Paul. I don't need anyone else." I believed her. For years, I believed her. I watched her claw her way into companies I'd only dreamed of working with. She made herself known in every room she walked into. People didn't just admire her. They feared her a little. And somehow, through all the chaos, she still came home to me. At first, I was proud of her confidence, of her hunger. I used to tell friends, "She's intense, but that's what makes her brilliant. But brilliance has a price." And she started, spending less of herself on me. The first time she forgot my birthday, I shrugged it off. She was working late, I told myself. The second year, she sent me a text at midnight with a laughing emoji. The third time, she didn't remember at all. I stopped celebrating. When I got promoted to lead architect, she didn't even look up from her phone when I told her. She just said, "Cool. Does that mean you'll finally take me on that Bali trip now?" I paid for every one of our vacations. She insisted she could cover it, but she never did. Said I was the man, so I should take pride in providing. And I did. Every month I covered her rent, even though she made more than enough to split it. I bought her a new laptop when she said her old one felt slow. I never asked her for anything, and yet she still made me feel like I owed her. I remember once, I cooked for her. I'd spent hours preparing everything from scratch. When she walked in, she glanced at the table and muttered, "Is this the same? Recipe from last time?" "Try something new, Paul. You're getting predictable. That word stuck with me. Predictable. Somewhere along the way, I had stopped being her piece. I had become her wallpaper, something that existed quietly in the background, no longer worth noticing. When she started talking about Julio, I should have paid attention. She introduced him as her little buddy from the office, said he was talented but a bit emotionally unstable. She brought him up at every dinner, laughing at his jokes from work, praising his fashion, comparing his spontaneity to my routine. I'd smile, nod, ask how his presentation went. The more she spoke about Julio, the less she spoke to me. I didn't say anything. I just started writing things down, like a man keeping inventory of everything that was vanishing from his life. Then came the night of the ring. I had rehearsed the proposal a dozen times, traveled all the way to the place we first met, booked the same cafe, reserved the same table. She was late by 40 minutes and arrived already irritated. I'm starving. You really brought me all the way across town for this? She didn't notice the flowers, or the candles, or the ring in my coat pocket. I still knelt, still asked, still smiled when she looked away. The box stayed open in my hand for 10 seconds before she plucked the ring, inspected it, and then turned around and tossed it directly into the fountain behind us. It hit the water with a clean, final splash. She turned back to me and said, "If you knew me, Paul, you'd know I don't want some fairy tale ending. Grow up." The people sitting near us went silent. I nodded, stood up, and walked back to the car. She talked the whole way home, about work, about traffic, about how she hated her shoes, but never mentioned what happened. That was Elizabeth. Everything dramatic had to be public. Everything painful had to be forgotten. I slept on the couch that night. She didn't ask why. I think deep down she knew, but she also knew I wouldn't leave. Not yet. It started with the bracelet. Elizabeth came home wearing one I hadn't seen before, thin, gold, too delicate to be her usual taste. I noticed it as she brushed her hair, back in the mirror. She saw me looking and said, "Oh, this? Office gift. Julio picked it out. He has great taste." She said his name casually, like he was family. I looked down at the toast I was buttering and nodded once. She didn't say anything else. That weekend, she left early Saturday morning, said she had a conference in another city but didn't offer any details. I didn't ask. I knew better. By Sunday night, she still hadn't returned. No texts, no calls. Just a photo she posted on her story of hotel slippers and wine, captioned, "Recharge before the storm, our grind never stops." But there were 2 wine glasses in the frame. I saw it. So did everyone else. When she walked in the door late, Monday morning she looked exhausted. Her makeup was smudged around the corners and she smelled like someone else's cologne. "I'm starving. Did you eat yet?" she asked, kicking off her heels and heading to the fridge. I said nothing. She turned back and frowned. "What's with the silence? Did you miss me too much?" That night, I found a shirt in the laundry that wasn't mine. Black, slim fit, label still new. Size, small. I held it up in front of her. Her eyes lingered for half a second too long before she forced a smile. "Julio forgot it here. He spilled coffee during a pitch rehearsal, and I told him to change. He went home shirtless, like an idiot." "Don't make it weird, Paul." I folded the shirt and placed it in the drawer. She didn't expect that. She wanted a reaction, but I didn't give her one. I kept watching. Over the next few weeks, she stopped hiding the texts. Her screen would light up with his name, Julio, and she wouldn't even turn it away. She laughed louder, smiled more often, but only when she was talking to him. One evening, I walked past the bathroom and saw her taking a selfie. She angled her body, tilted her face, stuck her tongue out slightly. It wasn't for me. It hadn't been for a long time. I stood in the hallway and listened as she sent a voice note to someone. "I wore the dress you like." He didn't even notice. "He's probably in bed by now. You want to come over?" She thought she was whispering. She wasn't. But even then, I didn't confront her. The next day, she made me breakfast. Truce? She said, holding out a slice of toast with strawberry jam. I took it, sat down, ate. She seemed surprised. Not. Mad? She asked. I shook my head. No, you're free to do what makes you happy. She looked uncomfortable. Elizabeth didn't know what to do with kindness when she expected a fight. That night, I took the ring, the same one she threw into the fountain but later retrieved and placed it on the windowsill. The same sill where she always left her earrings. I didn't say anything. She stared at it the next morning, paused, then said, "Why are you putting this here?" I shrugged. "So it can finally be forgotten, like everything else." She didn't answer. A week later, Trina invited me to her birthday dinner. We hadn't seen each other in a while, but she was always there in the background, steady, quiet, kind. The kind of person who knew how to listen without needing to be loud. Elizabeth saw the name pop up on my phone. "Oh, so you're texting her now." I looked up. "She's having a dinner. She invited me." Elizabeth narrowed her eyes. "You've barely talked to her in years. She's never thrown anything I gave her into a fountain. That shut her up. She didn't stop me from going. She just stood at the window as I left, arms crossed, eyes tracking me down the street." Trina's dinner was quiet. Just 5 of us. No loud music, no filters, just warmth. She noticed I wasn't eating much and leaned in. "You okay?" I paused, then nodded. "Yeah, just finally learning how to stop being invisible." She smiled softly and said, "You were never invisible. You were just with someone who refused to see you." When I got home, Elizabeth was sitting on the couch with the lights off. The TV was playing some movie on mute. She didn't even look at me. "How was your date?" she asked. "It wasn't a date." "Right," she said, not believing it. "Just 2 people catching up. While I sat here alone, I didn't bother responding. I just walked past her and went straight to the bedroom." That night, she didn't follow me in, but I could hear her crying softly in the dark, and for the first time in years, I felt nothing. Some nights I'd lie in bed and watch the ceiling until dawn. The light from the street would move slowly across the room as time dragged on, but sleep wouldn't come. I didn't know if it was numbness or quiet rage. Maybe both. The woman I once loved, utterly, entirely, was just a few steps away. But I felt closer to strangers on the train than I did to her. Every breath we shared in the same space felt like a performance, and I was tired of acting. I stopped, asking her where she went. I stopped glancing at her phone. I stopped checking the time when she didn't come home. She noticed the change. At first, she pretended not to care. Then she started talking louder, dressing flashier, laughing harder when she took calls near me. Sometimes she mentioned Julio's name too casually, as if trying to provoke something. I gave her nothing. That hurt her more than any argument could have. I became a ghost in my own home, moving around her like I was visiting, not living. She would sit on the couch scrolling endlessly, hoping I'd say something. But I didn't. I had nothing left to say. It wasn't just the cheating, it was the erosion, years of slow dismissal, of being taken for granted, of being seen but not valued. Sometimes I'd catch myself looking at her while she was asleep. Her hand curled beneath her cheek, lips slightly parted. She looked so innocent in those moments, like the girl I once fell in love with. But as soon as she woke, the mask came back on, and I hated her for it. Not because she changed, but because she never once admitted it. The worst part was knowing that no matter how much I endured, she would never look back and see what she had done. She would never apologize. Not truly. Not without needing something in return. One evening she asked me, "Do you still love me?" I stared at her for a long time. Then I said, "I don't know." She nodded like she expected that. But I saw the flicker of something in her eyes. Fear, maybe, or pride cracking at the edges. The next morning she made breakfast again. French toast like I used to love. She didn't eat. Just watched me across the table. I took one bite and set the fork down. I already ate, I said. She looked away. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for her phone. Later that day, Trina sent me a message. Just checking in. You looked a little off yesterday. If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here. I stared at the message for a long time before typing. Thanks. I might take you up on that. That evening, Elizabeth came home late. Again. I was sitting on the balcony, sipping a beer, staring at nothing. She sat down beside me, unusually quiet. After a minute, she said, "Remember when we used to sit here and talk about moving to Spain?" I didn't answer. She tried again. "You said we'd live near the coast, that you'd design the house yourself." Still nothing from me. She looked down at her lap. I miss that version of us. I finally looked at her. "There's no version of us left," I said quietly. Her face crumpled just slightly, but she didn't cry. Instead, she whispered, "Is there someone else?" I paused. "No," I said. "But there could be." And then I got up and went inside. That night, she didn't sleep in our bed. I didn't ask where she went, but I knew. It was a Wednesday morning when I received the envelope. Thick paper, no return address, delivered directly to my office. My assistant placed it on my desk, not thinking much of it. I opened it slowly, expecting client files. Instead, I found photos. Elizabeth. In a hotel lobby, her arm hooked tightly through Julio's. Another photo, her standing too close to him in the elevator, her hand tucked into the back pocket of his jeans. Then one of them kissing at a rooftop bar. But it wasn't the content that hit me the hardest. It was the date printed on each photo. They weren't recent. They were from over a year ago, long before the ring, long before the silence, long before I had even begun to suspect. I sat in my chair, staring at the spread of printed betrayal on my desk. So this wasn't something new. It wasn't a sudden mistake. It had been planned, hidden, sustained. That evening, I didn't go home. I messaged Trina and asked if she wanted to join me for dinner. She replied almost immediately, "I'd love to." We met at a quiet spot by the water, nothing fancy, just warm lights and empty seats. She didn't ask why I looked more tired than usual. She just poured me a glass of wine and waited. Halfway through the meal, I finally said it. "She's been lying for over a year." Trina didn't react. She just looked at me gently. "I'm sorry, Paul." I exhaled slowly. "I think I've known, but seeing it in black and white, it's like having the wind knocked out of you." She nodded. "Sometimes it's easier to believe the lie." I didn't reply, just stared at my food until it got cold. When I got home later, the lights were off. The house was still. But in the bedroom, I saw her sitting on the floor, back against the wall, hugging her knees. I walked past her toward the closet, took out an overnight bag, started packing. She looked up, startled. "Where are you going?" "I need air," I said simply. "You're leaving?" she whispered. "I'm breathing," I replied. She stood up slowly, panic creeping into her voice. "Paul, wait. Can we talk?" "About what?" I asked. "The lies? Or the fact that you've been sleeping with someone behind my back for over a year?" Her lips parted, but no words came. I zipped the bag and headed for the door. As I left, she said the one thing I didn't expect. It didn't mean anything. I stopped without turning around. "That's the problem," I said. "You gave everything, and it still meant nothing." Then I walked out. I didn't come home for 4 days. Stayed in a serviced apartment near my office. Worked late, woke early, ignored every call from her. She texted, apologized without saying the word sorry. Blamed stress, blamed confusion, blamed me for being distant. Not once did she say she was wrong. On the 5th night, I came back, not because I missed her. I just wanted to see if she'd still be there. She was. The moment I walked through the door, she stood from the couch like she'd been rehearsing for this. Paul, we need to talk. I didn't remove my coat. I'm listening. She hesitated, trying to measure her tone. I made mistakes. I know I haven't been the best partner, but you've been distant too. Cold. You act like nothing touches you. I nodded slowly. So you cheated because I was calm? She frowned. Don't twist my words. I'm not. I'm just trying to understand how I became the villain in your story. Her face hardened. It's not like I planned any of this. Julio was just comfort. You were always so far away. I was standing right next to you, I said quietly. The silence stretched between us. She shifted uncomfortably. I ended things with him, she finally said. It's over. I didn't react. You don't believe me? I walked past her, setting my keys on the table. I believe you ended it when you felt me slipping away, not before. That's not fair. I turned to face her. Nothing about this has been fair. She moved closer. I want to fix this. I want us back. I'll do whatever it takes. Why now? I asked. Because I love you. You loved me when you threw the ring into the fountain? You loved me when you called him baby on the phone while I sat in the next room? She fell silent again. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just looked at her like I was seeing her for the first time. I filed for divorce this morning, I said. Her breath caught. What? It's done. Papers are with my lawyer. You'll receive them soon. No, Paul, you can't just do that. I can, I said. And I already did. Tears filled her eyes. Please don't do this. We can go to counseling. We can start over. We already did start over. You just started it with someone else. She reached out to touch me and I stepped back. Her hands dropped. Her voice cracked. It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to go so far. I tilted my head, but it did. She collapsed onto the couch, hands covering her face. I was stupid. I got caught up, but I never stopped loving you. I looked. At her, truly looked. You didn't love me. You loved what I gave you. The safety, the silence, the fact that I never challenged you. You didn't love me. You loved control. She shook her head. That's not true. Then why did you only want to fix things when I stopped chasing you? She didn't answer. I walked to the bedroom, opened the closet, and pulled out a small box from the top shelf. Inside was the ring, the same one she once threw into the fountain. I held it up. You remember this? She nodded slowly. I walked over and placed it on the table beside her. Next time someone gives you something from the heart, don't discard it just to feel powerful. Paul, I'm done, Elizabeth. Her tears fell faster now. So, you're just going to walk away after everything? I stayed through everything. This is me finally leaving. She whispered, I can't lose you. You already did. She broke then. Full sobs, her body trembling, her breath jagged. I stood still, watching. This was the moment I had once feared. Seeing her in pain, watching her fall apart. But now, I felt nothing. I turned to leave and she cried out, Please, Paul, I'll change, I'll prove it, I'll do anything, I'll marry you, I'll have kids, I'll quit. My job if you want, just don't walk out. I paused at the door. That's the first time you've ever offered marriage or children, I said softly. Funny how it only happened the second I stopped offering them myself. I'm serious, she begged. We can start a family. I'll give you everything. Just give me a chance. I stared at her for a long time, then said, I don't want a child born out of desperation. I want a family built on loyalty. She broke again, sinking to the floor, her voice shaking. You were my home. No, I replied. I was your safety net, and you mistook it for love. Then I left. The next morning, Trina met me for coffee. She didn't ask questions. She just handed me a small envelope and said, "I know it's not much, but I wanted to give you something." Inside was a Polaroid of us, taken years ago at a campus event. I hadn't seen it in forever. We were both smiling, young, free. "I kept it," she said, "because you were one of the few people who ever saw me. I just wanted you to know that." For the first time in weeks, something in my chest relaxed. Not love, but peace. We sat in silence for a while. No noise, no pressure, just breathing. As I walked her to her car, I asked, "Why'd you wait until now?" Trina smiled gently. "Because you were in love with someone else, and I didn't want to be the one who pulled you out. I wanted you to walk out on your own." I nodded, understanding more than she knew. Before she left, she turned back and said, "When you're ready to start again, really start, I'll still be here." Not waiting, just open. I watched her drive away. Back at the house, the silence was heavy. Elizabeth hadn't moved out yet, but I knew some endings happen before the doors ever close. This one already had. 2 weeks after I handed her the divorce notice, Elizabeth sent a text. "We need to talk, it's important." I ignored it. The next day she came to my office. My assistant, clearly uncomfortable, knocked on my door. "Sir, Elizabeth's here." I told her to let her in. She walked in wearing white, her makeup done to look soft and broken. She was holding a folder. "I didn't come here to argue," she said. I leaned back in my chair. "Then don't." She sat down slowly, placing the folder on my desk. I signed the divorce papers. I said nothing. "But I want to say something before you disappear forever." I stayed quiet. She reached into her bag and pulled out the old ring, the same one she threw away, then quietly retrieved, then left sitting for years. She slid it across the desk. "I want you to give this to someone who deserves it." I raised an eyebrow. "I don't," she said. "Not anymore. I know that now." I stared at her, unsure whether I believed her change or if it even mattered anymore. She stood up. "You'll be happy, Paul, and not because of me, but because you finally chose yourself." Then she left. The ring sat on my desk for a while. I didn't touch it. That weekend, I saw her for the last time. Not in person. Online. Julio had posted a photo. Elizabeth on a boat holding a champagne glass, laughing. Under the sun, the caption read, "She chose me. She always does." What he didn't know, what he could never know, was that I had already spoken to the HR department at Elizabeth's company, quietly, discreetly. Julio had been working under her direct authority. Every romantic involvement between supervisors and subordinates needed to be declared and approved. It was a strict policy. Elizabeth never reported it. She thought she was untouchable. So I let them dig. A week later, she was fired. No press, no noise, just a simple, clean email. "We regret to inform you that your contract has been terminated effective immediately due to ethics violations." Julio followed 2 days after. That champagne photo? It was the last post on his account. I didn't block them. I wanted them to see everything I built. My new home, my travel photos, my rising architecture firm, and eventually, Trina. She didn't step into my life like a savior. She came in like a mirror, quietly showing me the version of myself I had buried under years of tolerance. We didn't rush. We took walks, made dinners, laughed at things without checking to see. Who else was watching? On our third date, I gave her the ring. She stared at it, confused. "This isn't new," she said. "No," I told her, but it never found the right hand. She didn't ask questions. She just took it, slipped it on, and whispered, "Thank you for choosing me when it wasn't easy." Months passed. Peace settled into the spaces once filled with chaos. Then one morning my phone rang, an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Later, curiosity got the better of me. I listened. Elizabeth's voice was shaky, almost unfamiliar. Paul, it's me. I don't know if this is still your number. I wanted to say I'm sorry. Not because I lost everything, but because I never saw you while you were right in front of me. She paused. Then her voice dropped lower. I saw you on Trina's page. You look happy. You deserve that. Another pause. Julio's gone. Took what little I had left and vanished. I don't blame him. I made a mess of everything. I just wanted to say that I remember the man who used to stay up with me during my panic attacks. The man who bought groceries without asking, who folded my laundry because I hated it, who never shouted, no matter how much I provoked him. I use. Long breath. I ruined the best thing I ever had. And I hope she knows what she has now. I deleted the voicemail. Not out of hate, but because I no longer needed to remember the voice that once made my heart ache. 1 year after our divorce was finalized, I received a letter from Elizabeth's mother. Handwritten. Simple. She's in therapy now. Trying to be better. I don't expect anything from you. I just want to thank you for not destroying her when you could have. She was wrong. I did destroy her. But not with anger. Not with violence, with silence, with absence, with indifference. I gave her the one thing she couldn't survive, my complete and final letting go. The kind of goodbye that doesn't make a sound, but leaves an echo she'll hear for the rest of her life. And in that quiet, I built something new. Not just love, not just success, but self-respect, the kind no one can take again.